In the summer of 1212, thousands of children left their homes and started marching toward Jerusalem. No adults led them, no army protected them, just children, some as young as 7, walking hundreds of miles because a boy told them God wanted them to. Their parents watched them go. Some tried to stop them. Most couldn't. And almost none of those children ever came home. This is the story of the Children's Crusade. And it's so much worse than you think. It started in France with a 12-year-old shepherd boy named Stephen. He claimed that Jesus appeared to him in a vision and gave him a letter. A letter for the King of France. A message from God himself. The message was simple: the children of France must march to Jerusalem and take back the Holy Land from Muslim control. Not with swords or armies, with faith. God would part the Mediterranean Sea for them, just like he parted the Red Sea for Moses. When they reached Jerusalem, the Muslims would see these innocent children and simply surrender. Now, you'd think adults would dismiss this as the fantasy of a child. But this was 1212. The Crusades had been raging for over a century. Thousands had died trying to take Jerusalem. And people were desperate for a sign that God still cared. So when Stephen began preaching in the streets, people listened. And children believed. By the thousands, children started leaving their homes. Farm boys, merchant daughters, orphans, noble children, ages 7 to 18, mostly. Some, barely old enough to walk the distance. They abandoned their families, their villages, their entire lives. Because a 12-year-old boy said God told him to. And they started marching south toward the sea. Imagine being a parent in 1212 and watching your child walk away. Thousands of children, streaming through towns and villages, singing hymns, carrying crosses. Convinced they were on a holy mission. Some parents tried to stop them. They begged. They locked doors. They physically held their children back. But the children broke free. They ran away in the night. Because in their minds, God was calling them. And disobeying God meant eternal damnation. So parents watched their children disappear down the road. And many of them never saw those children again. The march was a nightmare. No food, no shelter, no plan. Children collapsed from exhaustion, from hunger, from heatstroke in the summer sun. Some died on the road. Their bodies left behind as the march continued. But the survivors kept walking. Because Stephen promised them that when they reached the Mediterranean Sea, God would part the waters. Weeks later, they arrived at the port city of Marseille. 30,000 children, filthy, starving, desperate, standing at the edge of the sea, waiting for a miracle. The sea didn't part. They waited for days, praying, singing, begging God to show them the way. Nothing happened. And that's when the merchants appeared. 2 men, Hugh the Iron and William the Pig. Yes, those were their actual names. Wealthy ship owners who saw an opportunity. They approached Stephen with an offer: we'll transport the children to Jerusalem. Free of charge. It's God's work. Stephen, still convinced this was divine will, agreed. The merchants loaded the children onto 7 ships. 30,000 children packed into cargo holds meant for goods. The parents who had followed, desperate and heartbroken, watched the ship sail away. And then they waited for news. Months passed. Then, years. No word, no letters, no children coming home. It took 18 years before the truth came out. The ships never went to Jerusalem. 2 of the ships sank in a storm off the coast of Sardinia. Everyone aboard drowned. Hundreds of children, gone in an instant. The other 5 ships sailed to North Africa, where Hugh the Iron and William the Pig sold every single child into slavery. 30,000 children, sold to Muslim slave traders in Algeria and Egypt. The merchants made a fortune. And the children, they disappeared into history. Most were never heard from again. Stephen, the boy who started it all, vanished from history. Some accounts say he made it home and was executed by angry parents. Others say he died on the road. But the children he led, gone. Families spent years waiting for sons and daughters who would never return. Some parents died never knowing what happened to their children. A few, maybe a dozen, eventually escaped slavery and made it back to Europe decades later, old and broken. They told the story of what really happened. How they'd been sold. How they'd watched their friends die in bondage. But by then, it was too late. The Children's Crusade is one of the darkest chapters in medieval history. Thousands of children, manipulated by religious fervor and adult greed, marched